So, this happened roughly 2 years ago. I worked at a hotel, which had 50 rooms between 3 floors. I was the only employee in the building after about 5 p.m. It should be noted, I'm a girl. The hotel is on the farther side of the city, but it's considered to be on the nicer side. So, a lot of companies will send their workers to us for room and board instead of the shadier motels on the opposite side of the city. Some of them were great guests, others completely trashed everything. But that happens everywhere, I suppose. The layout of the building was pretty simple. You pull up to the front entrance, enter the foyer, and the front desk lobby is right through a set of automatic doors. Right across the hall from the lobby was a staircase leading up to the second floor, and to the left was our elevators to the second and third floor. The first floor only has rooms on one side to compensate for our pool, workout room, and breakfast area/dining room. Lobby and the office rooms all being on the opposite side. The upper floors have rooms on each side, with the third floor having the most rooms. Typically, the third floor, the highest, kept only for business and long stays. Second floor was reserved for short stays or bigger parties, and the first floor we kept open for elders who have wheelchairs or walkers, or people who might come in late at night for a one-night stay. I promise, this is relevant to the story. Anyway, I was getting towards the last few hours of my shift. It was slow that night, aside from a few work groups I'd checked in a few hours earlier. I noticed a raggedy, rusted and beat-up black pickup truck pulling into the brightly lit carpet, so I got my paperwork ready for check-in. A guy gets out, completely covered in dirt. I figured he just got off work, as most guys come in covered in dirt or oil. I do specifically remember that he reeked, which isn't too out of the norm either. Entirely, I just chalked it up to him being an oil field or construction worker. I got his credentials, his name was Michael, and scanned it into the computer. He also was reluctant to leave his vehicle information with me, but I explained if he didn't, the vehicle was at risk of being towed by morning. I thought he caved just because he was only going to be here for the night. Michael requested a second floor room close to the lobby staircase so we could have easy access to the front doors for smoking. Not out of the norm either. After taking his payment, I set up his room keys. I explained parking, policies, and explained how he can get to his room, which was right up the staircase and the door was on the opposite wall. He had a few bags with him and he went upstairs. Almost immediately, he comes back down the stairs and accuses me of giving him broken room keys. I had to explain if he put them next to his phone or anywhere near a magnet, potentially in his wallet, the keys will deactivate. I did offer to take him upstairs and open the room for him to make sure the new set of keys worked, and they did. He walked into his room by himself, shut the door, so with that, I was on my way back down to the lobby. When I got back in the office, something odd caught my eye on the cameras. He hadn't left the building, but his car wasn't in front anymore. He didn't mention about having another person with him. If there was, we were supposed to charge a $10 fee per extra person. The side doors didn't open unless you have a room key, or are on the inside of the hotel. So I started to watch the cameras to make sure he wasn't trying to sneak people in. About 20 minutes pass, and I notice nothing happening except him coming down the stairs. I smile politely, and he goes outside. He stays outside for about 10 minutes, just standing in the carport. I can see it on camera. Now, while I thought that was a little weird, I just chalked it up to him taking a smoke. I stopped paying attention after a while and started to file my paperwork that was due before my shift ended. Michael ran back into the hotel, cigarette still in his mouth. I instructed him he must take a cigarette outside and put it out. I told him prior we do not allow smoking in the building. He just threw it on the ground and put it out with his shoe. He turned his attention towards the TV and ended up sitting in the lobby for an ungodly amount of time. He kept glancing towards the door, which made me uncomfortable. During this time, the friendly demeanor he had at check-in completely disappeared. He seemed paranoid and agitated now. He would whisper to himself, but I couldn't hear what. After about 30 minutes of him doing this, I instructed him to go back up to his room because I cannot have people in the lobby when I am working on closing procedures. It was a lie, but ownership allows us to make up reasons if we are comfortable with a guest's presence. Michael asked me to take him up to his room because he is uncomfortable and scared. I explained that I'm unable to do that for safety reasons. What I could do was watch him go up the stairs on camera, and he could call down to the office on his room phone when he arrived into his room. I was just trying to be friendly and get him upstairs as quick as I could. He goes upstairs, but immediately comes back down and informs me that he forgot where his room was and I would need to show him. I told him I can't leave the office or lobby, but I can explain it to him where his room is because it was super simple. He was continuing his whispers. This time it was about losing his phone. I didn't pay any mind to it. After explaining to Michael where his room was, he went back upstairs and I heard the door slam shut. It echoed through the second and first floors, and it gave me chills for some reason. Almost immediately, he comes back down and starts yelling at me, telling me I stole his cell phone, I'm planning his demise, and I need to find his phone. This was completely bogus, as I haven't left the office since making sure his room key worked. He asked me for help, and I just wanted him to go away. So I slipped a screwdriver in my pocket, just in case he tried to attack me, and I began rummaging through the lobby couches looking for his phone. I didn't find it, but I did find his credit card, which he also began accusing me of stealing. I stood my ground and said if he can't respect me in my place of work, I can call the police and request they escort him into his room or off the facility. He got angrier, snatched his card from my hands, and went back inside. After about 20 minutes, he comes back inside. He's calmer, but he asks if he would please go outside with him because there's something wrong with his car. After I absolutely refuse, he tells me that I need to go outside. That it's not fair he's the only person out there working on his car and he just needs some fucking help. I had to explain that I'm not allowed to accompany a guest outside of the building. He just starts repeating that I absolutely have to go outside with him. Now, I have anxiety, and I tend to let my mind roam over wide horizons, and this was no different. I was about to have a panic attack, so I called the owners and asked them what I should do. It was my first hotel job, and although I have tons of freedom doing my job, I still want to know how to properly handle these situations. The owner told me that if I am uncomfortable and suspect he's under the influence or a danger to myself or himself, I have full reign to call the police, have them ban him from the property. I asked if they could just keep an eye on the cameras they have access to at home, because he's acting weird. I locked all the lobby doors and made sure the side and fire exits were all properly secured and closed, so no one could sneak in. I did this while doing this on the phone with my boss because I was scared to leave the office by myself. After getting back behind the office, I locked the door and I just braced for him to come back inside. My boss tells me to just watch the cameras and keep my cell phone nearby, just in case I have to call for help. Meanwhile, I noticed on the cameras, I couldn't see Michael anymore. I didn't know where he parked, but I damn sure wasn't going to go looking. But what I did notice, there was another vehicle driving through our parking lot. I called the hotel next door to ask if the car was on their cameras too, and I was informed it was an unknown vehicle to their records. It was unknown to mine as well. That just shot my anxiety up even higher. The car would have drive around the back of the building to the front, but avoid the carport, turn and then do the same to the building next door. The parking lot was almost empty, so I know they weren't looking for a parking spot. The car keeps going, and I'm watching it on camera, so focused that I didn't notice Michael come back inside. Telling Michael he either needs to go up to his room or vacate the premises, he just continues to yell at me, saying I need to go outside with him. He won't move out from in front of the entrance. I imagine he was staying within view of whoever else he kept looking back at. Then randomly, I see him sprint across the parking lot and out of the camera view. I also didn't see the camera anymore after that. Since it was practically the end of my shift, I somehow managed to get everything done just in time for the next shift to arrive. I was so glad to see her, I almost cried. I explained to her what happened, and that the owners want her to keep the lobby doors closed. We put up signs explaining our doors were broken, and due to safety reasons, guests have to call for entry or use the side entrances for their room. I also deactivated Michael's room keys and told the next shift girl not to let him back. If he shows up, to call the police because he's a security risk. I made sure she watched me get into my Uber ride after triple checking the vehicle and driver matched what my phone said. Since I was a regular customer of the driver, he asked why I was so riled up. I asked him to drive through the parking lot with the doors closed so I could see if Michael's truck or the other vehicle I saw driving across the parking lot were anywhere near the buildings. And they weren't. I have no idea what happened to them. The next day, I had my boyfriend come stay the entire evening shift with me just in case he came back, because I was told by my bosses that he never came to get his stuff. He wouldn't pick up the phone for calls either. Nothing happened that night, or any other night, except a month later. Michael came in asking about his stuff, and if he could get a room. I refused his room, and luckily other people were with me in the lobby and in the office. I had our maintenance guy go and retrieve his items and explained he is no longer allowed on the property. If we saw him, the police would be called and he would be arrested for trespassing. Again, this wasn't true, but we didn't want him coming back at all. I noticed Michael had a different vehicle this time. It was a newer model SUV, and it was maroon. It matched neither his beat-up black-up pickup truck or the dark-coloured sedan I saw driving in circles. If there was anything that sat with me even after all this time, it was that he remembered my name. He addressed me by my name when he walked up to the counter, and at first I thought, oh yeah, my name is a part of my uniform, until I realised I forgot to put on my name tag that day. After that, I refused to wear one in the hotel. Management let me create a fake name and wear that from point on. It took me a while to feel safe in the building again while I was alone. I constantly had my boyfriend with me while I worked the evening shift. There is a chance the guy and the circling vehicle are unrelated, but my anxiety and the aura I got from Michael that night, it didn't feel good or right. So, Michael, let's not meet. Ever again. TLDR. Creepy, dirty hotel guest tries to get me to go outside with him for many different reasons. When I refused and he left again, another vehicle began to circle the parking lot over and over. Each time he came back inside, he kept looking outside the doors, acting real agitated and paranoid. After standing my ground and refusing to go outside, he left. He didn't come back until a month later, and he remembered my name when I wasn't wearing a name tag. It scared me so badly, I didn't stay in my building myself for a long time. I was on a job where I had to drive site to site and do a small upgrade to the shelving at every CVS pharmacy in California. I'm about a month into the contract, and I've got over a 100-mile drive through the redwoods to my next location. As I'm driving, I notice that I can smell a slight funk on myself. If I can smell it, it will be 100 times worse to the client. I'll need to figure out how to get a shower and change clothes before arriving at the next location. I'm about 40 miles deep on this isolated stretch of highway through the redwoods when I see a sign for a camp at the next exit. I take the turn off to see if they have a shower. I pull into this really small camp that has about 15 spots all tight together in a circle. It's an awful camp, but it's deserted and they have a shower. Perfect. I grab a towel and a change of clothes and head to the bath building. As I approach, I can hear water running. I get to the building and there's someone in one of the stores taking a shower. That's quite weird because the camp is deserted. No cars, no tents. It's the middle of winter and we're miles and miles from civilization. Who in the world could be in there? It's got to be a pot farmer, right? Maybe a homeless dude? Are there meth labs in the redwoods? I'm not quite spooked by it, but my instincts are telling me that it is very weird. I decide to go ahead and use one of the showers a few stores down from him. I'm comforted that the doors are thick metal with big, strong bolt lock. The shower runs on quarters, lol. Nice, California. I take off my clothes and slide some quarters into the slot, and the water immediately turns on. A second later, I hear, fuck. Oh no, I must have stolen his hot water. I feel awful, but I can't shut it off. The water instantly runs when the quarters go in. Nothing I can do. So, uneasily, I step under the water, wondering what's going through the other guy's head. I don't have to wait long to find out. I'm about a minute into my shower when BAM! There's a huge smash against my metal shower door, followed by him screaming, "Ah! Ah!" Bam, bam, bam. This dude is trying to kick down my door. I'm petrified. I get out of the shower and stand by the door, dripping wet and naked, with my fists up in case he gets in. I can't put into words how uncomfortable I felt about the concept of fighting naked. I kept thinking I should try to put my pants on real quick, but couldn't bring myself to do it because if the door gave while my pants around my ankles, I'd be destroyed. I also thought about the implications of fighting someone miles and miles from the next human being. What are the stakes? I've been in more than a handful of bar fights and even enjoyed boxing with my friends, but there was never any real danger. If someone was getting hurt, everyone breaks it up. Is this guy going to stop fighting if he wins? Or is this to the death in his mind? I'm so scared that I'm near panicking. I try to control my breathing and give myself the best possible chance at coming out of this. After what felt like an eternity of him trying to get in, even though it was probably only a minute or two, he stops screaming and banging. I call out to him, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'll give you more quarters." No answer. I wait a few more minutes and finally relax a little. Phew, he's got his wits about him. I resume my shower, thinking about how weird this is, and wondering if he'll be waiting for me. Then I think about my truck. I've got a few grand's worth of tools in there. I literally can't afford to lose them. I'm sure he's in it. Soaking wet, I jump out of the shower, throw on my pants, slam open my store door, and go running out towards my vehicle. As I turn the corner of the building towards the parking area at full sprint, I'm so relieved to see that he's nowhere around. He must have slinked back to wherever he hides in the wilderness. Thank God. Dear homeless, hippie meth lab crazy person, please chill. So, this was about 8 years ago. My memories of that time are a bit hazy, but from what I remember, the first paranormal event that I experienced was a white figure walking down a hill that was right next to our home, suddenly disappearing into thin air. I saw that shit through my window, and I couldn't sleep for a few days. Also, I was like 9 at the time, so I literally peed myself. A few months after that event, strange shit started happening in our house. My dad used to work in a different city and would visit us once or twice a month, so it was me, my mom, and my 2 older sisters at home. But since my siblings would be at school the whole day, the ones to spend most of the time in the house were me and my mom. One day, me and my mom were home, and suddenly, we hear someone on the stairs, but something about those footsteps was different. I remember that it sent shivers down my spine, and I just jumped onto my mom, who was equally terrified. Mom shouted, "Who is it?" But no answer. She grabbed a coat hanger, out of all things, lol, and we slowly made our way towards the stairs. Also, we took like a minute or two to reach the stairs, but we could still hear the footsteps, meaning that thing was going up and down the stairs. In retrospect, I find that odd. Like, why would a ghost do that? Anyways, when we reached the stairs, what we saw was pure horror. Thinking about that still gives me shivers and brings back painful memories. What we saw was a shadow. Yeah, a fucking shadow. No body, no face, no nothing. But a humanoid black mass that was pacing up and down the stairs. I froze for a good 15 seconds until my mom yanked me in the room and locked the door. We called the neighbour and they came over and searched for any possible intruders, but they found no one or any signs of forced entry, so we didn't call the police. That wasn't even the worst of it. Once I saw a boy running down the stairs to the attic. I never saw that boy again, but we would hear footsteps from the attic stairs, and they would always be in a set of 3, never more, never less. This other time, My aunt was visiting, and Mum and my aunt were in one room chatting, and I was in my room. All of a sudden, we hear what sounds like a group of people talking and walking up the stairs, but we couldn't make out what they were talking about. Then one day, it all stopped. It took like a year, but everything paranormal stopped all of a sudden. We did nothing like hiring a priest or anything. We were getting used to the constant sounds and weird shadows, and it stopped. We just suppressed those memories of the events that happened over the course of a year and went on with our lives. I've never told anyone about these events because I've never found a person that would take me seriously. But I just found this subreddit, and it was amazing to finally find a place where I can speak my mind without being ridiculed about it. A bit of background. I grew up in a little village just outside Cambridge. My family house is not that old, mid-60s, and built on water meadows. The house itself is a bungalow, so all the rooms are on one floor. The living rooms, lounge, kitchen to one side, and bedrooms, bathroom to the other. The house is next door to the local church, which is very old. Its foundations are Saxon. The main building of the church was built during the 13th to 15th century. There are a few tales about the church and its environs, but that's for another time. On to what I've experienced in my family house. I would say most of my experiences that I remember happened from about 15 to 19, when I left for university. I will highlight some of the more memorable ones, but was pretty consistent and just a background level, such as doors opening, hearing your name on the breeze. Even now there seems to be at times a breeze through the house, even if all windows and doors are shut. One of the most memorable moments, I had just moved bedrooms, from the one I shared with my brother to the smaller bedroom my sister had just vacated, as she had gone to drama school in the southwest. I was quite happy as I was 15 and actually had my own room with my own TV. It was 94, which meant I did not have to watch Songs of Praise. The room itself was 13 foot square, I think, with one window overlooking the back garden. My sister had always said that in that room, she would be woken up in the middle of the night with someone banging really hard on the external wall. I ignored it, being the younger brother. I thought she was going OTT. Though, we always felt someone looking at us from the dark of the garden at night. I get myself settled in the room, a week or two passes, and nothing happens. It's late August, it's warm, and I have the window open. I wake up, I think it was about 3 in the morning. The house is quiet and dark. I hear the sound of something hitting rock or ice, chipping noise from the garden. I found out later, this was a precursor of what happened next. I am very awake at this point. This goes on for a while. I thought I hear someone talking faintly. Next moment, bang, bang, bang. Right on the wall behind my head. The external wall. Felt like someone wanted to smash in. Panicked hammering of the wall. This happened for a minute. It could be longer. It felt like an eternity. The silence, nothing. Could not explain it. Heart pounding. Could not sleep that night or other times it happened. It was about half a dozen times, but it was not the most vivid thing that happened in that room. I think the most vivid thing that happened only once from what I remember. I was about 17 at the time. I had gotten to the habit of leaving the radio playing in the background while I slept. I still sleep better with noise in the background. I woke in the middle of the night. The house was quiet apart from the radio playing Hyper Ballad by Bjork. It had just come out. I felt a massive weight on my chest. I can only just move my arms. I slowly move them towards my chest to see if I can remove the invisible weight. Inch by inch, my arms seemed to struggle. I was playing rugby a lot at the time. I was fit and strong. It shouldn't have been that hard. I managed to get my arms together. The weight disappeared suddenly. I then look at the door. It opens a crack, and I can picture it now. A lady's hand slowly comes in. Very strange, it's pale, almost translucent. I can see the end of what she is wearing. It's an embroidered lace, with flowers Victorian looking. As bizarre as it sounds, it reaches the light switch. It's a dimmer, so it turns it slightly on, then moves away again. Nothing else. Just saying it was there. Don't sleep much that night either. think this post is long enough. If you found it interesting, experienced a few other things during the years, including someone shouting "go away" in a quiet area of St Paul's Cathedral catacombs while I looked at the grave. I was quite calm about that, strangely. This is kind of long, so bear with me. I bought my first house in November 2019. As a kid who grew up dirt poor, obviously this was a huge accomplishment for myself and my family. We moved in, and for the first few months, it was our quiet little suburban house with a decent yard, and it was our slice of the American dream. At the start of the pandemic, I was furloughed from my job, so I was home for about a month. That's when my first experiences with sleep paralysis began. My girlfriend would typically be up an hour before me to take our daughter to daycare. I'd wake up, kiss them goodbye, and lay back down until my alarm went off. When I woke up one morning, I couldn't move. I almost could wiggle my fingers a little and move my eyes, but that was it. That's when I saw a little girl standing at the bottom of my bed, out of the corners of my eyes. It looked like my daughter, even stood like she does, but the voice it had was warped and deeper somehow. It kept saying "Dada" over and over again. Each time, the voice got deeper and almost seemed desperate for acknowledgement. I managed to break free from the paralysis and quickly sat up. She was gone. I kept telling myself it was just a dream, but the logical part of my brain knew better. Nothing else like that happened again, until about a year later. Around Christmas of 2020, we always get a live tree instead of a fake tree at my girlfriend's insistence. It's a long-standing tradition in her family, and I'm vastly outnumbered if I choose to argue against it. I just hate vacuuming up those fucking needles. I digress. The night after we set up and decorated the tree, I got up to grab some water from the fridge. My kitchen is separated from my living room with a wall about 4 feet high, with a support pillar on the right side. I opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and closed the door. As I turned to face the living room, that was when I saw her. A slumped over figure of an older woman who was swaying back and forth. The swaying movements were rigid and almost mechanical. It looked like my mother, who had passed away over a year ago at this point. Who or what was this thing, and why was it here all of a sudden? Despite me telling myself to run down the hallway and lock my bedroom door, part of me had to know if this was real. I've had vivid dreams after one too many edibles, but this wasn't like that. As I rounded the corner pillar, I came around the corner and the figure was gone. Nothing. I stood in my living room, looking around and trying to get my breath under control. Cold terror had engulfed me at that point, and I almost ran into my bedroom with a distinct certainty that I'd look back and find this thing running after me. The next morning I told my girlfriend about it, and she immediately blamed the edibles. I thought she might be right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't. She's never experienced anything, and is a staunch denier of the paranormal, so I knew trying to convince her this was real was a battle I had already lost. A few days later, my girlfriend had already left for work, but I was watching my daughter for the day. She normally gets up around 7:30, so I got myself up to shower at 6:45. As I'm drying off, I catch a figure walking down my hallway towards my daughter's room out of the corner of my eye. At first I thought it was my girlfriend and shrugged it off, but then I realised that she'd been gone for almost an hour at this point. She kissed me goodbye like she always does before leaving. Panic gripped me like it never had before, and I ran to my daughter's room. I stopped at the door and heard her saying hi to her mommy. I opened the door and flipped on a light to find my daughter still wrapped in a blanket, sitting up. "Good morning, baby," I said with a thin smile. "Good morning, Daddy. Where'd Mommy go? What's wrong with her eyes?" Terrified, but still trying to keep my composure, I said, "Well, Mommy went to work before we woke up. She kissed me and you goodbye before she left. Why do you think something was wrong with her eyes?" My 3-year-old squinches her face, and what she said next still freezes my blood when I think about it. Shaking her head, she says, No, Daddy. Mommy was just here, but but her eyes were gone. I said nothing, and as calmly as I could, got her out of bed and onto the other side of the house. What the fuck is this thing? And why is it just showing up now? I called my girlfriend and a few hours later and talked to her about what had just happened. I put my little girl on the phone so she could tell her mother that I wasn't lying and asked her if her eyes were okay. Mostly silent and very apprehensive, she agreed that I should call a priest if it made me feel better. The next morning, I called my local Catholic church, because I'm no Darren, and asked if the parish priest could come and bless my home. I'm baptised Catholic, and I'm very lapsed in practice, but I told the rectory secretary what was going on, and she immediately put me in touch with a priest outside of that particular parish, who is known to deal with disturbances like mine, or worse. When he arrived, he talked more in depth about the things that had happened and how they started. Without any prompting, he walked to my daughter's room and threw holy water into the corner where our bed is. The priest told me that whatever this entity was, the way it was presenting itself was not only predatory, but demonic in nature. He added that doppelganger type phenomenon, not always, but sometimes used by a demonic spirit to attempt to possess someone by withering down their ability to discern reality. I nodded in silent terror and didn't want to tell him that I felt like I could shit out my heart and die at that point. Since then, I haven't felt anything or seen anything out of the ordinary, and the house just feels more vibrant and lively. I still feel like I'm being watched sometimes, but chalk that up to paranoia, to keep my sanity.